now as we bring in the fire chief from West Bloomfield Township, and the guy's also responsible for the Tri-City Fire Department, Chief Greg Flynn. Good morning, Chief, and welcome to our new format here of the Splash Live.
I love it. Good morning, fellas.
How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, Thanks for having me on.
So clearly, Greg, there's probably the biggest conversation everyone's been having in our area lately is regarding the construction that we have going on the north end of your service area, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and a bit of Orchard Lake, as Orchard Lake Road is in the midst of a major reconstruction project that, by the way, passes right by one of your fire stations on Orchard Lake Road. And we were talking at a meeting last night and about, what do you do if you're in a very confined space and you've got a fire truck coming up right behind you? Do you have any advice for what motorists should be doing in a situation like that?
Well, all these situations are very fluid, and there's no absolute, this will always work kind of a response. But generally speaking, acknowledging that the emergency vehicle is behind you and letting the driver of that emergency vehicle know that you do see them is an important part. And then above all things, if there's nowhere to go right or left, then just proceed forward until that space opens up or a safe space opens up for the emergency vehicle to pass. Our emergency vehicle operators are trained and understand that you have nowhere to go. So there shouldn't be a siren blaring behind you. We all understand it. This is part of improving infrastructure, and we have to play through a little bit of that discomfort to get the benefits down the road. No pun intended there.
All right, well, I mean, and this is a little bit of a departure from what we've always been taught, because when we're driving and we hear a siren or see the lights blinking in our rearview mirror, the instruction is pull over and stop. And, just make sure your vehicle stops so the emergency vehicles can maneuver around you. But if you're in the only lane, stopping might not be the best thing to do.
Right, and we're conscious of, and we don't know, those orange barrels are telling us not to go over there. And while there are obviously clear times when that road space to the left or to the right of us is safe to go into, we're not going to encourage that, because the road commission puts those barrels up because they're saying there's some kind of hazard or they're trying to keep workers safe. And generally speaking, again, I think you're going to find that the emergency vehicles in those areas understand the predicament that people are in, and we should all be working together to just clearly navigate out of that construction zone. And then everything you already talked about, Dave, is pull to that right, signal that turn signal on so the apparatus driver knows that that's where you're going, and then they'll safely pass by, and away we all go.
So you have a fire station right in the middle of that construction zone, and I'm sure that all of this is going to impact response time to some degree for calls out of that fire station. I know you guys plan everything and work on every contingency plan, but can you talk a little bit about what you're doing right now during this challenging time up in the Keego-Sylvan area to make sure we're doing everything we can to be able to respond in a timely way to any calls that should happen to come in?
Sure. Let me start at a real granular level where on a daily basis, our company officer up at Station 9 provides a report in the morning briefing. That happened today at 8:30, but typically at 9 o'clock. The reason why it's not at 9 o'clock today is because there's a 9 o'clock meeting about the construction at Orchard Lake and Commerce. So staff is all attending that with some other stakeholders in the area. So that's what we do on a daily basis. And if there was a change, an audible to call in the middle of the day, then we have a system in place where we can share that very quickly through our dispatch and through other distribution methods for emergency services. We're collaborating with our colleagues on West Bloomfield PD, Orchard Lake, Sylvan, and Keego PD to ensure that safe responses are happening to whatever the emergency may be. And then we have contingencies with colleagues in Waterford and all of our mutual aid groups with Oakway, so that if we need additional resources to get through a tight space, that we can have them coming in from any direction where traffic flow is less impaired. So all of those things
We're,
happen and continue to happen in the pre-planning, during the construction, and post-construction.
We're going to talk a little bit later on in the program about distracted driving and the new laws here in the state of Michigan that make it illegal to even touch your cell phone while you're in the car, and make that a primary offense for law enforcement to be able to pull you over if they see nothing else going on but you manipulating your cell phone, likely long overdue. That's got to be good news for certainly all the construction workers, but I would think for all the first responders too, because when you're trying to respond to something, if you got somebody on their cell phone and they're not totally in the game of driving their car, that takes a bad situation and it makes it even worse.
Well, there's just so much tech out there that one can leverage, Dave, and we can still stay connected and have the conversation and keep communication flowing without having to look down at a screen. So it's time, and you're absolutely spot on that this is going to make it safer for all of those that work in the roadways and the Postal Service, everyone that's on the road that is doing frequent stops, all of our delivery folks that we're always so grateful to see when packages are showing up on time. They're out and they're in those spaces, and we need to have a heads up. The community that I live in, which as you know isn't West Bloomfield, but it's a very walkable community in Grosse Pointe, and crossing roads and all of that kind of stuff, it makes it safer when people's eyes are on the road for whatever it is that may come in their way unexpectedly.
Not Tyler, well, when Chief Flynn talks about technology, he does it from a credible position. So, he was out shooting live video in the streets with his cell phone even before our crews were were doing it. So you're right.
I'm due for one of those live shots. I thought about trying to make it up into the construction area for the live shot, but the kibosh was put to that. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have we've got a month. We'll have plenty of time. So, thank you for joining us. Tyler does get a chance to say something on the show every once in a while. It can't be easy to get a word in edgewise with me here. But Tyler, got anything for the chief this morning?
No, I think we have covered quite a lot with this, Chief, going through what to do in the case of the emergency vehicles. But in terms of what can be expected from residents in those residential areas because of this construction traffic. You mentioned it a little bit earlier with Dave, that response times may be impacted, but a lot of that mutual aid may play a factor in that. Would you imagine, especially in the Tri-Cities, Kegel Harbor and Sylvan Lake in particular, those areas north of Cass Lake Road, that mutual aid may play a bigger factor in some of the emergency responses given the situation east and westbound on Orchard Lake Road in the near future?
Sure, our friends and colleagues in Bloomfield Township and Waterford Regional are aware of what's going on. We, again, have regular communication with them, and our dispatch center is able to immediately transition that call over and get those services going. I would caution folks too, we need a little bit of grace and patience as we all go through the next few months here, that these are improvements that we're all going to enjoy, and trying to save an extra 2 or 3 minutes by doing a cut through of a subdivision or down a road that you think you're the only one that knows that that's a cut through. We really would discourage that. And I think there's some friends on our law enforcement side that might be looking specifically for you from what I hear. And I think it's just very important to realize that we all know it's coming. We all need to plan a little bit more time. And these roads that are cut throughs are not designed for the volume of traffic nor the speed that some people choose to go on those. So that will likely be strictly enforced with very little tolerance for anyone coming up with a reason for why they saw there was value in cutting through these highly traveled roads. So really want to discourage that and be in front of that and make sure people are aware that they're going to be out there, and there's very little tolerance for that.
All right. Well, Greg Flynn, thank you very much for joining us on short notice. We appreciate it. I mean, this is kind of like Miss Manners. All this stuff is obvious, but it always is worth it to take a minute or two to remind people to just do as you suggest. Just keep your head and be careful, and keep your head on a pivot when you're driving through these construction zones. And if something does go wrong, do everything you can to politely accommodate any emergency vehicles. Chief, anything else you want to add this morning?
Just a little bit of a mark your calendar. October 1st is going to be our fire open house, and the FD is going to be celebrating their 100th anniversary. So more to come on that, but want to make sure that folks start hearing about that now. Sunday, October 1st, noon to 3, fire station.
Yeah, always during a Lions game, Tyler. What I want you to do, Chief, is start scheduling. Look at the Detroit Lions. I'm kidding. We're really looking forward to it. But Tyler's going, come on, Dave. We have to schedule that on the bye week. Is that possibly the bye week for the Lions, Tyler? By any chance? Probably not.
I'll have to take a quick look. Don't believe so.
Yeah, I
No,
didn't
the whole
realize
world
that this
doesn't
was,
revolve around football. It's a great event.
Well, it is, and I would like to. I think they had one of their better seasons in last year, right? And there could be something to, if you want to change up, Dave. I mean, you go ahead, but if that season changes because we changed the open house, I think you've jinxed the Lions for the whole season, and it's all recorded right here in Splash.
Well, and in spite of the Lions' success, we had a wonderful turnout last year, and I'm sure we will again this year. And, in our Civic Center TV booth, if you need to take 30 seconds and check the score of the game, I'm sure we'll have that for everybody there.
All right, we're playing on some
we got our
big names
calendars.
coming in for that too.
We look forward to it, and we look forward to broadcasting live with you. Chief Greg Flynn of the West Bloomfield Fire Department and the Tri-City Fire Department joining us this morning on the Splash Live. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with more. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Dave Scott. He's Tyler Keefe. We'll be right back.